Hi, my name is Laura Banks, and the 5 Elements of Thinking Trial by Fire presentation was created by Laura, Keith, Eric, and Alejandra. So, if you would like to pause this video, we actually have a video of Michael Starbird addressing Pomona College. He was actually at the commencement ceremony, so if you would like to listen to his speech, feel free to pause this video and watch what he has to say. This next video is a really short video that goes over the second element of effective thinking, which is the fire element, which goes over making mistakes. So this is author Michael Starbird discussing just an overview of that second element. So please take a minute, pause it here, and watch the video. All right, so the element of fire, failing to succeed. The element of fire is associated with the making of mistakes. So failure or intentionally getting something wrong can actually help us inevitably get it even more right. So the way to get good ideas is to get lots of ideas and throw away the bad ones. Quote by Linus Pauling. Basically, failing shouldn't be a dreadful word, especially not in education. A specific mistake is an excellent source of insight and direction. So this is a quote from the chapter. A specific mistake isn't a mistake where you can pinpoint exactly what the problem might be. And when we're able to pinpoint those exact points, we're able to guide ourselves in a new direction and maybe figure out a better solution. So a teacher's job includes teaching students how to fail and grow from that failure, not to be destroyed by it. So the fire element goes over the idea that we learn from our failures instead of backing down from them. And there's 2 different reactions to failures that a teacher can teach students that are productive. So the first one is let the mistake take you to a better attempt. So learning from our mistakes and creating a better solution. The second one is to ask whether your mistake is an answer to a different question. So maybe your mistake didn't turn out to answer the question you originally thought, but it's going to lead you in a completely new direction. So we're going to start with the first productive use of mistakes, and that's let the mistake lead you to a better attempt. So this is even though the student says, I know it's wrong, teaching them that it's okay because we're going to use that wrong to make a better answer. The example they gave in the book was an example about a girl named Mary who was given a question and she said she knew her answer was wrong, and the teacher suggested that she tell him the answer anyway. She did so, and when he said, well, what's wrong with your answer? She was able to tell him exactly what she thought was wrong. Then he had her correct that answer, and she corrected that problem, and then he said, anything else wrong? And she listed another thing and explained how to correct that. She did this over and over again with a little help from her classmates and was actually able to come up with the correct answer within the class period. So the same idea applies to any time you know that your answer is wrong. And the steps that you follow are first, identifying the specific error. What is one thing that you can make that makes the answer incorrect? And then coming up with a way to correct that wrong. So creating an alternative to what is wrong. After you've done that, you've got to reevaluate your answer. Is there anything else that can be improved? Reflect on the changes. So think about, does this solve the problem with the first answer? So is it done there? We've improved everything. We're good to go. If not, we need to revisit, rethink, and redo. And it's just continuing those 3 steps until you get to the answer that actually solves your problem. Success is not always about succeeding the first time. Revisions of original work must be made until gaps are filled. So the point of this is that drafts although they're just the starting point, contain very strong points as well as gaps that need to be addressed. By taking your draft and then revising it, you're filling those gaps but holding on to those strong points. You can construct a quick solution to a problem and analyze it for weaknesses. So, in your draft, you might not have it right, but you can begin to identify where those gaps are and where we are going to be able to identify problems. So it's really important that you record your ideas, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Identifying the components that are correct and making corrections accordingly to the things that might not be is how we're going to end up with a better solution in the end. So James Joyce said, "A man's errors are his portals to discovery." The second way that we can use mistakes productively is by asking whether the mistake is the correct answer to a different question. The book talks about an example. In 1970, Spencer Silver, who was a scientist for 3M Research Laboratories, tried to create a new adhesive tape. He wanted it to be stronger and better, in a sense, than the more previous tape. And so he created a new type of adhesive. However, it in fact ended up being weaker than the adhesive that he was originally looking at. It was actually one of the weakest of all time. He could stick it to things and peel it right off. So, in a sense, it was a failure. But later on, a colleague named Arthur Fry was having trouble with trying to mark books. He wanted his bookmarks to stick inside the pages without leaving a mark. He later used this adhesive and put it on his bookmarks. That is how the Post-it was born. So success is the ability to go from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm. That quote's from Winston Churchill. Basically, if your mistake might not seem like it's a success at the moment, but it might be answering a different problem. It wasn't the answer, that tape wasn't the answer to the stronger adhesive, but it was the answer to Arthur Fry's bookmark problem. So just some compiling thoughts for the fire element. Mistakes and failures are not a sign of weakness. Instead, they're opportunities for future success. Failing is progress. It's not losing ground. Often a mistake or the revelation of error is the most important step towards success. Problems that require truly creative solutions are problems that you simply do not yet know how to solve. So we actually have two activities for embracing mistakes. The first one is for high school, and it's just using a chapter test or any sort of test that a student has taken and passing it back and having them redo their answers, figure out what might be wrong about specific answers, and come up with a better answer for that question. Some ways you can do this, you can do it in small groups, you can have them work independently, and then rewarding them in some way for getting those correct answers, whether it be averaging out the test scores or replacing maybe a test score. But it's not punishing them for getting the answers wrong in the first place. It's teaching them what was wrong and how to correct it. So if you're going to be in elementary school, you can still use the same idea of if students take a test, passing it back, having them correct the problems. Some things you might want to do differently, though, are maybe going over a few problems that were missed pretty frequently for the class. Maybe slow down, walk through the steps of correction, model how to correct them, or having students break up into groups with the common errors so that you can go and spot check those different groups. So how does this align with the fire element? Well, fire is students learning from their mistakes and not dwelling on them, so giving them the opportunity to improve and a better second attempt helps them branch out and gain a better understanding of what they learned. We have a second activity as well, and this one is doing a quick write, and it's very easy for students to quickly write out whatever their thoughts are Our example uses the idea of technology in the classroom, but you can use this in your content area. You could use it for problem solving on things that maybe aren't going so well in the classroom. Maybe kids aren't turning in homework, we're not studying for tests, and just have students write out a list of everything they can think of as a solution or anything that comes to mind about the problem. After they have their list, we can then use that to build on it. So students can then take what they have and figure out what areas might be not as great, what areas might we have some good ideas that are helping, and then they can work together to form a more complete and more realistic list. How you can modify this for elementary schools is using a different topic. You can still use the same idea. Maybe they're talking about it instead of writing it out if they're at the ages where they're not being able to write, or maybe just drawing a picture could also help, and then they could correct what might need adjusting in their picture to make it more realistic. And in conclusion, we're going to end with a quote by Michael Jordan. "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed." Thank you for watching.